let's look at the fastest times ran in the 100-meter dash in this year's Enhanced Games. These times are slower than the Texas high school boys' time. Perhaps they should just open it up. Hey, it's the Enhanced Games / high school boys. Coach Greg, in today's video, let's discuss just how pathetic, just how bad, just how big of a flop that the Enhanced Games that it actually is. Now, my opinion, this should be the last of it. The Enhanced Game was a bigger flop than I believe anyone could have predicted. Now that it's over, let's go over it in its entirety. How many world records were broke? 1. And it's going to have an asterisk. And is it because they used performance-enhancing drugs? No. It's because they used that stupid super suit. You know, that suit that was banned because essentially every athlete that wore it was setting world records in the prior Olympics. And so they said, enough is enough. People shouldn't have to spend 20 to 30 minutes putting on a suit to make you more streamlined, making it that much easier to swim. It will be analogous to this. You guys are weightlifting fans, hopefully bodybuilders and powerlifters and so on. Imagine you have a raw record. You know, in the bench press, wearing a tank top. You bench press the world record, you're freaking strong. 600 pounds. Wow. Next year, somebody breaks your record wearing a triple ply bench press shirt and bench presses 605 pounds. Are you impressed by that? The guy who broke the natty, clean, tested record at the Olympics in swimming, you know, without performance-enhancing drugs. Well, supposedly, we hope maybe they used them in the off-season. That record was broken by somebody who used steroids and wore a cheat suit. How is that supposed to be impressive? It is not. To make matters worse, let's look at running, the premier event in the world, the 100-meter dash. Now, if somebody had broke Usain Bolt's record, or any record, let's go back to Ben Johnson, seeing as I'm from Canada, and back in the day, I didn't know what a steroid was, and all of a sudden it was Ben Johnson. He was built like Coach Greg, except he had even a better tan. Thought he was natural. He broke the world record, 9.79 seconds, hand in the air before crossing the finish line. Could have ran it even faster. What an accomplishment. Go Canada. We're the best. Couple days later, I'm in school, the teacher's talking about this. He failed for steroids, I believe it was Winstrol. And so, what does this mean? Oh my goodness, he wasn't natural. This was a shock, and I'm thinking, what does that even mean? He used steroids. What's a steroid? I've never heard of these things. That was my introduction to steroids. Because of that, people think in 2026, everyone's juiced. Every athlete in the Olympics, they're on steroids. Everyone has to use steroids. And do you know why? It's cope, because you can't do it. I'm a firm believer that the majority of people in the Olympics are actually natural. That Usain Bolt was natural, and he ran it in 9.58. There's something known as genetics. Usain Bolt, 6'5". If you get the best genetics in the world against somebody with genetics, and they use every drug possible, every training known to man, they're not beating the best genetics. This isn't bodybuilding where the bigger the muscles are, the better. If you took steroids and got huge and massive muscles, it's not going to make you run any faster. And so just because you take steroids doesn't mean you're breaking a record. Case in point, let's look at the fastest times ran in the 100-meter dash in this year's Enhanced Games, and this is going to blow your minds. These times are slower than the Texas high school boys' time. Kids, teenagers in high school ran faster than that. And so, listen, just because these B or perhaps C-tier athletes or has-beens couldn't break the record doesn't mean that everyone who was at the Olympics had to be on steroids. There are a lot of people who are actually not. Fred Curley, USA, 9.97 seconds. In comparison to the Texas boys, Tate Taylor, 9.92 legal wind. High school national record. Braden Williams, 10.01. And second place Enhanced Games, 10.05. Third place, Texas boys, Richard Lee Dixon, 10.16. Third place Enhanced Games, Marvin Bracey, 10.36. The top 5 were faster than the other top 5 from the Enhanced Games. And so those of you who are a little stupid, I mean, I don't know if I should call you stupid. I'm just going to call you lower IQ. You know, we want to be sensitive to your feelings because it's 2026. Well, you must be thinking, well, considering that the people at the Olympics were faster than the people in the enhanced games, then that means they must have been on steroids. Or else, how do you explain that the people in the enhanced games couldn't beat the people in the Olympics? And so by that logic, you have to assume that the Texas boys high school athletes, they're all on steroids too. Are you going to tell me that every single person who runs the 100 meters under 10 seconds has to be on steroids? If we continue with that logic, we then have to assume that, well, kids who are running at 14 or 15 years of age, the 100 meters in 10.5, well, they're all on steroids too. You can't think that everyone in the world that's faster than you, that does anything impressive, has to be on steroids. It doesn't work like that. There is something known as genetics and hard work. And just because somebody can do something impressive and that you cannot, doesn't mean that that person had to use steroids. To the same extent, just because somebody has a better physique than you, then it looks like it couldn't have been natural, doesn't mean that it wasn't done natural. Now, I'm not saying that most amazing physiques aren't on steroids. Of course they are. But there are some occasionally that have done it natty. Now, in terms of bodybuilding, the difference between an enhanced physique and a natural one is enormous. What exactly does that mean? It means that if anyone had, let's call it average genetics, and they used steroids, no matter how many steroids they took, they're never running the 100-meter dash under 10 seconds. You can't go from running 10.5 seconds to 9 point whatever seconds simply from taking steroids. And so I Show Speed, who beat Ashton Hall, who we believe to be a fake natty after all, he was supposed to get his blood work and send it to Coach Greg, and he went and got his blood work and didn't send it to Coach Greg. And so what do you believe is the reason for that? If I Show Speed suddenly took performance-enhancing drugs, he has way above average genetics. He runs very, very fast. Do y'all believe he would win the enhanced games? Would he be an Olympic athlete? I don't think so. You need to have amazing potential. I'm talking about 99.999% of the population, it doesn't have what you have. And so you have natural gifted talent, and with steroids, perhaps it can help you by 0.1. It's not taking off a half a second, and yeah, I get it, allows you to train harder, you have more muscle, help you perhaps in the sprint, but it isn't making the difference between winning the Olympics and not even making it there. With the enhanced game, we discovered that it's a publicly traded stock. It was once valued at, I think, $2 billion. What is wrong with people? $2 billion for doing what? Essentially, their hope was, hey, we're going to pay these guys millions of dollars to break records and to run and to prove how amazing steroids actually are. And it backfired. People were slower than ever before. But the regular competitors who were competing at the Olympics, they didn't jump ship. They didn't suddenly use performance-enhancing drugs, and I wonder why. If you're actually capable of winning a medal at the Olympics, don't you think that's worth more than $1 million? You really think that people are going to sell out and become a fake natty, potentially taking years off their life for the chance, the small, minute chance that they might win $1 million? Why not just stay natty? Now, if they're retired, there has been, they know they don't have anything left. Maybe I'll give this a shot, knowing full well they're not going to set any records unless, of course, they're wearing a super suit, swimsuit, and bro wins $1 million, and it proves nothing because they weren't swimming with the same conditions. I mean, why not let them wear flippers and hand paddles? You know, why not just give them every advantage in the world? And for the runners, well, why don't we just let them all run downhill? You know, have them run on a decline, down a mountain. Imagine how fast they could run. 5 seconds, 100-meter fall. You fall down 100 meters into the water. Bravo! It's so stupid. And I do believe that that stock had lost perhaps 66%. The valuation went from over $2 billion to well under $1. And so a horrible flop. Do I believe that they can do anything? No. Next year, the year after, no one is setting records in the 100 meters. No one is coming close. No one's even going to beat Ben Johnson's time from the 1980s. That is the enhanced games. Perhaps they should just open it up. Hey, it's the enhanced games / high school boys. High school boys, natty, are going to beat the old geezers, washed out has-beens competing at the enhanced games. It doesn't make any sense. The events they chose doesn't make any sense. Essentially, it's the enhanced games. The enhanced Olympics is what we thought it was. They added in the deadlift. Does anyone think that people breaking records in the deadlift and strongman were somehow natty and that suddenly they had used performance-enhancing drugs and were going to break their own lifts? If anything, all this did was prove that the enhanced games using the FDA-approved drugs, for example, testosterone, they were allowed to use DECA, they were allowed to use halotestin, Anadrol, but they couldn't use Superdrol. They couldn't use Masteron. They couldn't use very specific drugs. For example, they couldn't use Tren. And notice that the lifts, they went down. Thor didn't set his record. Perhaps the reason Thor couldn't set his record because he wasn't allowed to use the exact concoctions that he'd used in the past. And so the enhanced games where they can use whatever they want, this is not true. They had regulations. FDA-approved, doctor-approved medications that they could take in higher doses. And so what did that prove? It proved nothing. And so remember, rather than using performance-enhancing drugs, you can, of course, use Turk. You're not going to fail any drug test for using turkesterone. You're not going to fail drugs for using GO2 max. And so you can go to HLD supplements and purchase legal supplements, compete in the regular Olympics, and set regular records. And what's wrong with that? And while you're at it, please go to AlgoRx if you are, in fact, abusing performance-enhancing drugs, or even if you're not, you can get your blood work done. You can purchase legal, FDA-approved medications. Do you need a GLP to help you lose weight? Do you need enclomiphene to boost your testosterone? Do you need finasteride or anything else for your hair? What about Cialis, Viagra? And remember, these are from compounding pharmacies. 100% legal. You know exactly what you're going to get. And so if you're interested, click the link in the description, code Greg. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algo for AlgoRx, and of course, watch one of those tube loops. And so if you want to be sponsored by HCLT Supplements, you carry our supplements to your store under Jim, or you want to be coached by myself or myself and my team, click the link in the description right now. And until next time, I am out.